to ride JBI. This is JB. In this video, we are comparing the fork from the 2023 Kawasaki 450 SR model with the fork that comes on the 2019 to 2023 Kawasaki KX450 standard model. Now, these forks have already been revalved to the JBI suspension Pro Fork spec, so the subvalves have already been replaced from the stock silver one here and here to the JBI suspension red one, and the JBI suspension volume spacers have already been added to these forks. None of these components come stock in these forks. I just wanted to get that out of the way right now early in the video. So let's begin. First thing that we noticed is that on the SR model, the fork lug is anodized black, whereas the non-SR model is a raw aluminum silver. The lower tube is coated on it just like it is on the non-SR model, but the upper tube here is not Kashima coated, whereas on the SR model, the upper tube is Kashima coated. The compression adjuster or compression assembly, the top of it is still green like the standard model, but it has the Showa logo and emblem laser etched into the top of it. But the pressure spring is the same, and so is the free piston design, and so is the compression piston design. All of that is the same componentry as the standard model. Now, the valving was actually different between the SR model and the standard model. Using the standard model as our reference, the valving on the SR featured one additional shim on the low speed valve right here. So instead of two 26.1 shims, there were three. And then on the compression stack on the main piston, there are 20 shims against the face instead of the stock 19. Now, these forks have been revalved to our JBI Pro Fork spec. What that is we utilize a different subvalve that has a much better flow volume based on this large 14mm rod. These stock subvalves are often too constrictive and can make for a harsh feel in the fork. Now, moving on, you can see that the upper sub tank of the fork cartridge is Kashima coated, and that's where these seals on the free piston are going to be sliding against on the inside of this cylinder. So that's really cool to see that they did that and improved the coating surface with Kashima coat, whereas on the non-SR model here, it is not coated. But the actual cartridge tube itself, where the mid valve slides up and down, both of these feature the same coating, whether it is the SR model here or the non-SR model. One thing we did notice was the actual damper rods themselves. The SR model features a more raw-looking aluminum damper rod, whereas on the traditional one, it has more of a kind of faint yellow, which commonly is a anodized coating. They measure the same in length, so both forks are the same exact length as each other and utilize the same spring rates. Now, beyond the valving differences on the compression piston, inside the mid valves, the only difference we noticed was that on the rebound shims, instead of using 22mm shims directly against the piston face, the size has been reduced to 21mm. This is similar to what Honda started doing on the CRF models a couple years ago on the same Showa 49mm spring forks. Beyond that, the rest of the valving was the same. Actually, wait, no. The crossover shim on the rebound stack was a 16mm OD instead of a 15mm OD. So this had a slightly slower rebound setting, but very, very minimal difference between the two. I would argue that the rebound setting probably feels the same between the two forks, but what you'd really be feeling is the difference in the compression setting on the forks of the SR model compared to the non-SR model. As most people know, the stock Kawasaki KX450 suspension settings are quite good out of the box. For the people that feel like it's a little bit on the soft side, the SR model is going to be well welcomed by you. You're going to like the additional firmness that it has right out of the box comparative to the non-SR model. And yeah, so again, here at JBI, we have a Pro Fork setup where we change out the subvalve to a better subvalve design. We include the addition of the JBI volume spacer. That allows us to manipulate the air volume inside of the fork without having to change the amount of oil volume in there. Reason for that is we don't want to change the engagement point of our spring perch, this item right here. As you can see, the spring perch is identical on both models. This is the one that came out of the SR model. This is the one that came out of the non-SR model. Anyways, the volume spacers give us a way to manipulate the air volume inside the fork without having to change the oil volume and alter the engagement point of the spring perch. This is quite advantageous for motocross and off-road riders. It allows us to keep a very smooth forked feel because we can run lower oil volumes without the fork being too soft, because we can make up for that volume difference with the volume spacer. The fork internals also get revalved on the mid-valve to the new trampoline / leaf spring style mid-valve that you find in the Yamahas and the previous 2022 KX450 SR edition that had KYB suspension on it. That featured that leaf spring style mid-valve as well. So we adapt that into our JBI Pro Fork setup. Anyways, fitment, length, and all that stuff is identical and the same. So just some minor valving changes between the two forks. Thank you guys for watching this video. All JBI suspension services and parts can be found at ridejbi.com.